In 2012, I was smitten by design. I was interested. Not the kind of interest that boys generally get in learning guitar, or the kind of interest that 20-something get in leaving their job just for traveling. It was genuine. It was intense. I could feel myself turning into a design geek. I started observing everything around me with a design perspective, rotations, reflections, and whatnot. So one day my parents asked me my grades, and I got a 6. I just rotated it and showed them a 9. And all this was happening without me realizing it. Until one day, I got a grade which looks same from all the angles. I'll tell you a story. When I used to enter my exam halls, I used to stare at the question paper blankly, because there was only one thing which I knew about the questions. Only one thing: the font in which they were written. And all the downward going grades, they made me realize that I need to learn a lot of things. Realization struck, and my dad's belt too. Just kidding. He never used to hit me because I never used to go home. And in between all this, I, along with my friends, we realized that I'm meant for the world of design and not for engineering. Dozens of people told me to drop out, but I didn't.
So when I actually met him, we were just acquaintances. But I was kind of aware of the waves that he was creating with his designs. And I was sure that trillions of people had asked him to drop out and tell him that how dropping out would be the best decision of his life. Because, you know, we love giving advice when we are not asked for it. But I'm glad that he could filter out all that advice. Because when we met, we were able to channelize our passions for creativity and create a huge online following for our work. And gradually we turned that into a sustainable business. But the journey was not easy at all. We faced a lot of problems during the journey. There are multiple points where we both felt like we wanted to drop out. First, he felt like he wanted to drop out when he realized his passion for design and the fact that he didn't need to complete engineering in order to pursue the same. It came a second time when he failed one of his final year engineering courses. And by that time, we had already started our business. It was a very difficult time for us. And he was on the verge of getting a 1-year extension. Even I faced the thoughts of dropping out at certain points in my final year, because by the time I reached my final year, I had to manage something they call a final year research project. And I was doing that with my business, which already had 20 plus full-time people working for us. To this day, I do not understand how I got out of IIT, and the journey was very difficult. But having experienced the tumultuous times and having endured the wrath of this thing called engineering, I still think that there is nothing fancy about dropping out. And there's nothing that we need to celebrate about it. I know I might face a lot of flack for this, and that probably the world's longest wars will be fought in the comment section of this video. But I just want to clarify that I don't have anything against people who drop out. My angst is only against the biases that we have in our mind about people who drop out and become successful. And that is what I'm going to talk about right now. The first thing that I want to highlight here is something called the Post Hoc Fallacy. Now, the word may sound very fancy, but it's a very simple fallacy that states that if event X happens after event Y, then event X happened because of event Y. And this is the fallacy. For example, we say Mark Zuckerberg became a billionaire after he dropped out. So he became a billionaire because he dropped out, which is not true at all. He became successful because of a multitude of reasons, which include his talent, his passion, and the immense amount of luck that he had in different points in his journey. Attributing his entire success to one mere fact of dropping out is naive at best. There's another very important cognitive bias that I want to talk about here, which I'll do through the findings of an experiment. So in this experiment, the participants were told that there are 2 urns, both of which contain marbles. The first urn contains 10 marbles, out of which 1 is red, and the second one contains 100 marbles, out of which 8 are red. Now, success in this experiment was defined as picking out a red marble from the urns. And now the participants were asked, which urn would you pick a marble out of if you had to maximize your chances of success? Now, you all are very smart. You know it's a very simple probability question. You just have to find out in which case the probability of drawing a red marble is greater. For the first one, it's 0.1. Second one, it's 0.08. Clearly, the first one is what you will choose. But here's the catch. 30 to 40% of the people in that experiment chose the second urn, and they did not do this calculation, this simple probability calculation at all. Now you may be wondering why they did that. They did that simply because they saw a higher number of red marbles in the second urn, 8 versus 1. What they conveniently chose to ignore was the denominator, the total number of marbles in both cases. And this bias is called the denominator neglect. Something very similar happens when we talk about people who drop out and become successful. We look at Michael Dell, Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs. We look at all those winning red marbles. But what we do not look at is the huge number of other people who also dropped out and did not become successful. We just miss the denominator. So when you're dropping out, you're not just against your neighbors or Sharma uncle, but you're also against something that makes a little more sense, and that is probability.
Okay, so too much probability for the day. Let's do some elementary maths. What is 12 plus 2? Okay, so college degrees don't work this way. Say, if you are in your second year or third year while doing your 4-year course, and if you plan to drop out in your second year, then you don't get an intermediate degree. You're just called a 12th pass. Just a 12th pass. And you might not even realize this when you are starting your own venture or doing something different. But what if you fail? Sorry for being negative here, but not every company is Google who will hire dropouts. People want to see that piece of paper which you get while graduating when they want to hire you. Now I want to talk about one more thing, the word known as passion. I hear a lot of people saying that they want to drop out because they are not passionate about what the professor is teaching in the class. And the funny part is, like, most of them don't even know what they are actually passionate about. Additionally, college is not just about academics. College is about life. College is about developing the overall personality. No one is going to ask you whether sine square theta plus cos square theta converges to 1 or Schrodinger's cat is alive or dead once you're out of college. And also, if you're passionate about something, you can do some side courses, learn those things on your own. I'll give you an example. When I was in my second year, I realized that I am passionate towards design. I started learning those things on my own. I just focused on 2 things while my college life: how to learn design professionally and how to complete my degree. Because my degree is something wherein I invested a lot of time, like before coming to IIT and after coming to IIT. I didn't want that to go for waste. So rather than that, I just focused on 2 things, and for me it was like completing 2 degrees in 4 years. And the learning of design, they helped me start my design agency along with Sahil.
So in essence, college really teaches you the subtle art of jugaad, and it's also a great platform where you can figure out what you really like doing in life. And in hindsight, I think we did the right thing by not dropping out of college. If I would have dropped out, I would never have realized that my passion for creativity could amount to something tangible. I would probably be stuck in a job that I wouldn't have liked. If he would have dropped out, he would probably be a student of design in a college, sitting on the bench and learning what the professor is teaching. But right now the situation is completely different. He is actually on the other side of the bench as the youngest professor of design at Miami Ad School. If we would have dropped out, the Minimalist would not have been a thing, and we would not be standing on this stage right now. Thank you.
Thanks.